It's fine with folks. We're not really a quorum yet, but the only piece of business that we had to do would be approval of our minutes, and we can just defer that to the next meeting in case we don't get a quorum. Through the morning, I'm Robert Lilligren, Met Council Member, District 6. Chair Zaley is on travel, and so he has asked me to step in for the chair. I hope that's fine with everyone. And I'll just say things are going to be a little different now that I'm in charge.
Good to know.
Right. Some housekeeping. These mics are live. They can't be turned off. So this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. So please just be aware that whatever you say will be heard. Let's see. We're here because the St. Louis Park City Hall has early voting. So this month and next month we'll be here back to St. Louis Park in December. Members who are watching virtually or listening to the recording are encouraged to comment for the Corridor Management Committee's consideration. You can do that at david.davies@metrotransit.org. So that's david.davies@metrotransit.org until September 13th. And the comments will be posted on the project's website as part of our minutes. And all the meeting handouts that are presented will be posted on the project website as well, which is greenlinext.org, greenlineext.org, and that'll be posted after this meeting. And let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Emily.
Emily Getty, Green Line Extension Executive Assistant.
Connie Sahibjem, Department of Transportation, Metro District.
Suzanne Sabatka, Policy Director for Mayor Fry, City of Minneapolis.
Lesley Kandaras, General Manager at Metro Transit.
I'm Ben Picone. I'm a planner in service development.
Good morning, Cyndi Harper, Manager of Route Planning and Service Development.
Jon Tao, Metropolitan Council, Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity.
Welcome.
Good morning, I'm Brad Wersom, Mayor of Minnetonka.
Dr. Carter, Metro Council Member, District 3.
Debbie Gotal, Hennepin County Commissioner, Vice Chair of the Board.
And Jim Alexander, Project Director for the project.
Great. Thanks, everyone. And you may have noticed there's no coffee in the room. Connie has noticed. He's acutely aware. So Sam assures me that we're making a coffee run. So we can also, if you need some coffee before that, there is coffee available on the third floor of this building. Moving through the agenda, the one item of business was to approve the minutes, and we can't do that without a quorum, so we'll just defer that until either we gain a quorum or to the next meeting. So without objection, that's deferred. So next on the agenda is the update from the Metro Transit General Manager, Lesley Kandaras. Welcome, Lesley.
Thank you, Chair Lilligren, committee members. From Metro Transit, our update is very similar to the last update I provided. We continue to see ridership increase. If we compared January through June of this year to January through June of last year, we saw about a 9% ridership growth across the system. At the same time, crime on our system is down. Back in August, we presented our quarterly safety and security action plan update to the Metropolitan Council. And there we reported when you compare quarter 2 2024 to quarter 2 of 2023, crime was down over 17%. And so those are both trends that we are glad to see, but we know we have more work to do. On the service side, as operator hiring allows, we continue to add service. And I don't want to get ahead of the Network Now presentation, but you'll hear more in this meeting about our broader plan to really engage with riders, communities, as we look to prioritize service improvements now through the end of 2027. On the public safety side, we continue to build up our transit rider investment program. This includes hiring additional trip agents. Trip agents are non-sworn personnel in our operations department that conduct routine fare inspection, but also assist customers. And just yesterday, I had the privilege of welcoming our first batch of in-house hires for that trip program, who are joining our contracted Allied Universal staff already out on the system. And looking ahead to 2025, the Metropolitan Council is going through its budget development process right now, but Metro Transit is proposing a significant increase in additional resources for that trip program. So we look to continue to grow that moving forward. And I think that is probably where I'll pause to see if there are any questions or any other topics people want.
Questions, yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So first of all, glad to hear about this program. Are you going to be able to come back with some stats and statistics on how successful, what we're seeing on that and everything with this new program?
Sure, Mr. Chair, Committee Member Cattell, yes, I think it's pretty early on. We started the Transit Rider Investment Program agents back at the end of February. So certainly we're tracking their activity. I would say it's still a little soon to know the impact in a quantitative way, but it's something we're eager to assess and report. We have roughly 20 to 25 staff out on the system now, and then we are starting another batch of 13 who are started training yesterday and plan to hire another batch yet this year. So we're still growing it too. But yeah, would be happy to come back and report as we have some firmer
And
numbers.
just
Yeah,
a quick follow.
Commissioner.
It'd be interesting too to find out what kind of assistance you are needing and everything like this, especially when we think about people who are disabled or older people, or what kind of assistance that you're actually seeing that is needed on the train, or is it more social work related or anything? And how would we approach that? So we could get fixes, so we could get upstream on some of these things. So that would be really interesting too, just anecdotally, what they say, not just the people who are not paying the fare, right?
Yes. And Mr. Chair, Committee Member, I'll mention that is part of the program, is not only the fare enforcement and education around how to pay and be fare compliant, but also connecting people to resources. Part of the training includes how to interact with our police department, including our homeless action team. Additionally, we are folding in a different element of the 2023 Transportation Omnibus, which was a project called the Transit Service Intervention Project. It lasted about a year, the way it was designed in state law. But we're assessing how that project went, which included contracting with 10 community-based organizations to increase social service connections on the system. And really taking what we learned from that and folding it into this broader ongoing program as well. So I'll also mention too, under state law, the trip agents are required to be trained in and carry Narcan. And so they do have some first aid capabilities and have sadly been called on to use Narcan.
Commissioner, I would note that the Met Council gets a quarterly safety update that has robust data around this. This program is of huge interest to the Met Council members as well. So I'm sure that some of that can be shared here. And it's a developing area, right? So we're
Yeah, it
always
is. So
refining.
it's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
I always like upstream.
Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you for your report and congratulations on the reduction in crime. We're all sensitive to that. But I know as a mayor in a community where we have crime statistics and we really like to report that crime is down. And but the thing that I found is when we report in our city that crime is down, well, it's down from the peak, but it's not down from the pre-period. And I think in terms of pure intellectual honesty, that having an understanding of where crime stands, both versus the peak, which happened during the pandemic, but also, or shortly thereafter, but also where do we stand kind of from the steady state before all of the challenging times, because I think that's really relevant, because I know my residents, when I say, well, crime is down and we're making progress, they challenge me on that because they recognize that crime, well, it's down, but is it really down? And that's the question we get. So I think in terms of reporting, at least for us, I would like that, that kind of that intellectually honest answer to say, well, crime is trending down on our system. It's not as low as it was, and we'll be honest about that, but our goal is to get it below to a lowest steady state it's ever been. So just some context on that.
Yeah, Chair, Mayor, thank you for that. And you have raised this in past meetings too. And one kind of challenge we have in reporting pre-pandemic crime is our police department changed how it reported and tracked crime. So we actually don't have apples to apples comparisons going back to what would be considered the pre-COVID era. I will say right now, 2024 is on trend to be lower than 2023. But comparing it, we can go back probably starting in 2021, so it won't be the pre-COVID era, but.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Yeah, so
Appreciate it.
that's one.
And I'll try not to be a
flaw, but-
broken record on
No,
that.
no, I
but
appreciate
but
you
it's-
raising it again, and I did look into it. I wish I had better information to share, and to the chair's point, we provide more information to the Metropolitan Council and certainly can provide a more thorough kind of review of all the crime data we're looking at, and also calls for service data, because our police have really put an emphasis on proactive policing, which for certain types of crime actually increases the number of
Right.
reported crimes. So
Right. Yeah, if you have
it's a
nobody
complex
looking,
story.
you have nobody looking, you have fewer crimes.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And I would say that I view myself as a champion of this project. And so I want to be able to, when people challenge me on it, I want to be able to intelligently defend it. And so any perspective, I mean, I don't want the nitty gritty. I don't want to do your
Okay.
job, but I do care about, okay, well, even if we don't have apples to apples, we say, well, our sense is, right, we're really getting down to a steady state, and if it's anecdotal, I'll take that, because I want to be able to report to the people who ask me, what I honestly believe about the status of crime on our system.
Thank you. And Commissioner, to your point, I was also going to, just anecdotally, so I represent the area of two of the more troubled stations, Lake Street and Franklin.
Yes.
And just anecdotally, people in the community love seeing these trip agents. They love seeing an additional presence and visibility on the line, so.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, we'll see what the data shows, but I'm guessing it's going to be encouraging. Any other questions for the director? Anymore? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our report on Network Now, the overview. Cyndi, Harper, and Ben, is it Picone?
Picone, yep.
Picone, thank you. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. Chair and council members, committee members, we're pleased today to talk to you about a project that's been going on for about a year and a half now, that is on the threshold of being released to the public next week, called Network Now, and also the connecting bus service overview that is associated with this. So a little background on why we are doing this Network Now project. Really 4 main reasons. It's a pivotal time in our history. We have seen a significant ridership decline, particularly between 2019 and 2020. That's not just exclusive to us here in the Twin Cities. That's really a national trend in the transit industry. That's also been tied to a 30% decrease in the number of service hours that we operated, and with more than 60 routes that are currently suspended. We've seen significant changes in travel patterns. Definitely on our commuter and express service, have seen the impact of telecommuting by traditional office workers at least some days of the week. Really, our service that runs all day, that serves multi-purposes, has what's been the most resilient when it comes to looking at ridership. Our workforce has also been a challenge for us. Again, like most industries, we have had workforce challenges during the pandemic, and coming out of that, I think we have turned a corner on that in terms of hiring, which is great news. With a new union contract that pays more, we're doing some things behind the scenes in order to try to make the job of being a bus or train operator more attractive, and not only to interest people in starting, but then having them want to come back day after day and continue to work with us. One of the challenges with Network Now is this is not just trying to keep status quo in terms of our workforce, but we actually we need to grow. And it's not just operators, although that's the most visible public-facing component. It's all of the behind-the-scenes folks that are associated with getting service out on the street, whether it's mechanics, facilities, maintenance staff, administration, you name it. And we are growing. Of course, we had partway through this, working on this project, we had the implementation of a new regional sales tax last year. We have, for the first time, I think in our history, 4 different transitways that are all under construction. I believe we haven't had more than 1 under construction at a time up until recently, so big challenge, and even more in the planning phase. And also introducing new modes of transit to the region, namely something called microtransit. So Network Now is a short-term vision that really has 2 goals. When to resolve the status of routes that are currently suspended, many of these routes are more commuter-oriented services, often supported by park and rides, so that also speaks to the need to identify the future of some of our facilities. But also, and more fun to talk about, making improvements throughout the network. So that includes new routes and redesigning existing bus routes in order to match today's travel patterns and transit needs. Providing more service on existing routes, either through improving frequency or widening spans, starting service earlier in the morning or running later in the evening. Metro line investments, preparing for new transitways. That includes obviously the Green Line extension as well as the Gold Line next March and a couple of arterial BRT lines, B and E line in June and December of 2025, and then also the G line over in St. Paul, and then also expanding our microtransit network. So Network Now is our vision. It is a plan that's meant to be a short term, really just through 2027. And the proposed plan that is getting ready to be released next week will expand service in our network by more than 35% in order to grow ridership. So it's a significant jump in the amount of serviced hours on the street compared to what we have out there currently. Also improve coverage and mobility by both expanding bus routes and also expansion of our micro network, and also the opportunity to redesign commuter services to meet the travel needs of the region that we're seeing today. There's 3 pillars that we've been really adhering to as been working on this network reset. And these are all available in the report that was published last fall. It's available on our project website, and that report is called Establishing the Foundation. There's really 3 chapters or three pillars. Engagement. We did significant engagement in 2023 survey, a lot of other opportunities to engage, pop-up events, interacting with folks, over 6,000 responses to our survey. Also, really digging into the performance of our network, both how it's performing currently and comparing to before the pandemic, some of the changes that we've made, and also looking at the opportunities that are available for us. And then also making sure that everything that we're doing is in line with council policy, namely the transportation policy plan. And of course, we've been working with folks over at Robert Street as they've been working on updating the 2040 transportation policy plan into the 2050 transportation policy plans. We've been doing our work concurrently. So the 3 pillars, all of that engagement and feedback, the trends that we've been seeing, all of the data, all of that really has resulted in 5 guiding principles that we used and when we drafted our concept plan. Includes adapting service to meet changes in transit markets and travel patterns, preparing for new metro lines, maintaining the reliability of our scheduled service. One of the big things that happened at the beginning of Network Now is we were seeing a lot of cancellation of trips because we didn't have the workforce, and we realized that we don't want to do that again. We want to make sure that before we expand service, we are confident that we have the workforce in order to be able to do that. Build on success to grow ridership by adding service where people use transit the most, while at the same time balancing that with providing access to opportunities and services, the focus on advancing equity and reducing regional disparities. So this project actually has already been in the works for about 2 years behind the scenes. We started in late 2022, about the same time that we were seeing significant missed trips, and but then really kicked off publicly in early 2023 with our engagement to create our guiding framework and our values, and then worked through the winter to create the Establishing Foundation report that was released last fall. This year, we've really focused on developing our draft concept plan, which is what we're going to be releasing next week. That plan's going to be released for public review. And then we will be modifying our plan based on the feedback that we receive. And then we'll be asking the council, make modifications to the plan and ask the council to adopt the final version of that plan early next year. So now I'm going to turn over to Ben Picone, who's going to, Ben is our planner for the Southwest Metro, including the Green Line Extension communities. And so he's going to walk us through how we have handled the Green Line Extension and connecting bus service to those new stations as part of our project.
And welcome.
Thank you, Cyndi, and thank you, Chair, committee members. My name is Ben Picone, and like Cyndi said, I'm a planner in service development. So Network Now is a plan through 2027, and part of the reason that that date was selected was because of the Green Line extension that's going to be opening in 2027. So kind of one of the questions that we're tasked with answering in the planning department is, what is service going to look like on opening day of the Green Line? Not just for the Green Line, but connecting service in and around the neighborhoods there. Because each station has a station area, but it's really those connections in and out of those station areas that are very important for residents of the communities or transit riders that are trying to get in and out of those communities. It's kind of a unique transit way because it's, as you know, it's unlike most of our previous projects, this isn't replacing a current route. This is a brand new route that isn't replacing a bus route. So it's a brand new transit way, brand new access for residents and for riders. So our task is, how can we best serve it and best get people in and out of the region? So this one. Mm-hmm. So this is a map that shows, there's a lot going on in this map, but it's the future Green Line extension overlaid with what we currently have in service in the area today. So obviously the big Green Line is showing the routing with the stations, and then the smaller kind of colored lines are routes in and around the station areas. So you can already see that there is service running around these stations, and you can kind of start to get a picture of what kind of adjustments we can make to these routes to, not fundamentally change them on a grand scale, but make small changes to serve stations in and around this area. Unlike the transit way that's going in, these are routes that have been there for quite a long time and have established ridership, established travel patterns that people are using them for every day. So kind of the balancing act that we are working on is, how can we make small changes to these routes to connect to the station and improve access for everyone without disrupting too much of how people are using these routes today. So those are kind of the challenges that we're looking at and going forward with our Network Now plan. It is, working as our sector study for this area, so we're really excited to show the plan to the public and really sit down and listen to the feedback that we're getting. Where are we hitting the mark and getting people where they need to go, and what adjustments can we make in response to public feedback to kind of really connect people to those stations. So we're excited to hear the feedback from the public.
I'll back up just one second here just to walk through a couple things. There are really 4 main bus routes that I think will be important connecting at these stations that when you see the plan next week, you'll want to look for. They are all existing routes, it's been said. The Route 9, the Route 17, the Route 612, and the Route 615. So those will be the 4 route numbers that you really want to look for. In addition, on this map, you see there's a couple of, is there a pointer on this? There isn't. Okay. Towards the very top, you see a yellowish area. It says micro North Minneapolis. So that is our current micro transit zone in North Minneapolis that already serves the Bassett Creek Valley Station. The Bryn Mawr Station is very, very, very close, so we will look at expanding to include that station area as well. Microtransit is our on-demand shared ride service, kind of like Uber with the bus, that we will also be expanding throughout the region. And part of that expansion includes into Minnetonka. So that's the kind of peach zone over on the far left that you see. We have submitted a successful regional solicitation application to have a microzone in Minnetonka to help folks connect up with the Green Line extension when that's ready to open. You see a couple of other zones on the map. There's the purple, which is the Southwest Transit, Southwest Station, Southwest Prime service, which is the same type of service, just a different operator. Of course, that covers Eden Prairie. And they also have some limited service that comes into Minnetonka for the hook residents and businesses in their service area up with opportunities. So, and we are working with coordinating more with all of the suburban transit providers have this type of service, and we're working on coordinating at a more regional level as well. Okay, so the engagement process, how do folks let us know what they think about this plan? We will have an online comment form that goes live next week. We'll have a paper version that we're using as we're out talking to people doing customer intercepts, as well as just out in the community. We'll have a series of community meetings. Wanted to include, there is one scheduled on October 1st at the Hopkins Pavilion that is oriented for the Green Line extension. Our public hearing, because we are proposing to discontinue more than 50 routes, primarily commuter express routes that have replacement service, will be on October 29th. It is council policy that we have to have a public hearing whenever we are discontinuing service. But we also have a series of other community meetings and events throughout October and early November to gather feedback. And also directly reaching out to government partners and community organizations. We are this week sending emails out to all of the cities in our service area that have more specifics about what is planned for your community. We've met with all of the counties and with Minneapolis and St. Paul staff recently as well. So staff is in the loop as to what's going on there. Certainly would encourage you, to work with, Jim or David if you've got organizations or other individuals that you want to make sure are on our stakeholder list that we make sure that we are reaching out to. And then just in terms of what's next, so the Met Council Transportation Committee, we have a business item next Monday to set the official public hearing, just so that you know the content at all of our meetings, no matter if it's the official public hearing or a community meeting or a pop-up event, it's all similar, and it doesn't matter how anybody gives us their comment. You don't have to come to the October 29th meeting. If you come to, we get a comment card from you. If you talk to us at a meeting, we treat all of that feedback, equally. And then after, hopefully, the full Met Council approves the public hearing date on September 11th. September 12th is a big day. That's when our concept plan that includes all of the details on all of these new routes and existing routes and routes that have been suspended will go live on our website. And so pretty excited about that. Mentioned we have the October 1st meeting, and then public comment ends on November 15th. Probably should have noted that as it is on here. And then through the winter, we'll be refining our plan, and then we'll be working on a phased implementation in 2025, 2026, and 2027 that really will be shaped primarily by as workforce allows. I'd be happy to take any questions. Note we have our project website address up on the screen as well.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Ben. Questions, first Commissioner, and then, okay, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thanks for that. That's really, really helpful. I guess for the October 1st date, I was just looking to see if I can find something to share that. I think engaging the community is great, and I think having them understand how to engage on this is really hard. Transportation issues are not really easy to navigate. I'm new to them, by the way. So I just, if there's graphics or details or how to engage, maybe a 101 guide for residents that are in the area in my district of 6, that would be really helpful, both for that. And then also, can you just tell me really quick before we move on, tell me more about how this metro or micro transit zone is gonna work?
Sure. Chair and members of the committees, first of all, thank you for the feedback on the engagement. We have, not with us today, but our community outreach and engagement team has been working quite closely with, we have a consultant also, it's helping us to make sure that we reach out to some of those communities that don't traditionally like to participate in a normal outreach and engagement process. So certainly making sure we focus on that we get feedback from everyone. We have generally seen that it is, once you actually have a specific proposal, really have some details for people to react to, that does help with certainly getting people's attention versus, hey, we've got this plan that we might do, and we actually come out and say, if you ride route such and such, here's what we are talking about changing. That definitely tends to get more people engaged. But I will definitely pass that feedback along about the how to engage part of that to our community outreach engagement group. In terms of our Metro Transit Micro, so the way that service works, we have a pilot right now in North Minneapolis that's been going for approximately 2 years that will be permanent. And that is essentially, it's a shared ride system where we have small Metro Mobility style little buses that are used within a specific zone. And the idea is that we have each of those, we're looking to expand 8 more zones around the region, including Minnetonka as one of those. Others are going to be based on the idea of trying to extend transit ways and transit center outreach into lower density areas and really bringing people, hooking them up, bringing them into the transit network. So we're looking at places, we have 2 new ones that will open hopefully later this year, if everything goes as planned, one in Woodbury, and that is meant to be an extension of the Gold Line that opens in March. And the other one in Roseville, focused on Rosedale Transit Center and the A line. You don't have to be going to a transit connection to use the service. It can also be used for just point to point, from your home to whatever location, as long as both are in the zone. But the idea is to bring folks into the network. Others that we have in our plan include out in Maplewood, Northtown, Starlight Transit Center up in Brooklyn Park, one at the south end of the G line down in West St. Paul and Mendota Heights area, and then also focusing on the 98th Street station in Bloomington on the Orange line. So really looking to have a coverage kind of around the region focused at the transit centers. We usually have 5 vehicles. We are aiming for an average wait time of 20 to 30 minutes. That's so that the wait time and the demand is what constrains the size of the zone. They do have regular fare boxes, just like we have on our normal buses, so we accept all normal Metro Transit methods of fare, obviously cash, and you can get the transfer into the regular route system, as well as tap cards, which are for lower income groups. Your go-to card, if you are a Minneapolis high school student and you have a pass through your school, we accept all that as well. So it's been a system that's really been getting a lot of good feedback. Everybody wants it. So we are trying to figure out how we scale that, something that's meant to be at a small area at a regional component. And so this is our first pretty significant step to do that.
Cool, thanks. Commissioner Gattel.
Thank you. A follow-up on that question, that's a very good question, is how are we going to fund this? Where are the funds coming from? Because a lot of times, I know that there had been microtransit in several cities before, and they are now defunct because the funding ran out and there wasn't a replacement funding. So do we have something sustainable, and what's in the works?
Cyndi.
Sure. Committee chair and members of many of the members of the committee, excuse me. So the funding for all of the service expansion we're talking about here, including microservice, but also on the fixed route side here, both rail and bus, comes out of the regional sales tax that was passed last fall, as well as our other normal operating funding resources. Lesley or Adam, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Lesley,
Well, Chair Lilligren, committee member, I'll just add that within the legislation that created the regional sales tax for transportation, there are a number of items in law that the sales tax must go to, and microtransit as well as service improvements are both listed there. So just exactly what Cyndi said.
That's great. I
but,
still have
yeah.
if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
a follow-up.
You're good.
First of all, I'm glad to hear that, because that's been the biggest thing, is about will it last, and that's much needed. I've heard a lot about missing service on shortened bus availability, and actually even our unions are having conversations with us about that, because it matters to get to their jobs and everything like this. So it's a pretty big issue. That how do you decide when you're going to bring a new service, back that was missing before, or how you're going to do this? How are you looking at that? Are you as far as are you looking at back to see where it was, or how are you determining which ones to bring back up?
Chair and members of the committee, I think there's really two different approaches. We're talking, there's one situation is if a route was operating prior to 2019 or early 2020. And the question is, and it's been suspended, so the question there is, do we restore service on those routes? Or do we say, nope, we're not going to bring those back, we're going to head a different direction with those resources? And so when we were looking at suspended routes, we were asking ourselves, how were those routes performing prior to the pandemic? Were they meeting our ridership and productivity and subsidy standards even prior to the pandemic? And in some cases, they were not. And so in that case, it said, well, it doesn't make sense to bring it back if it wasn't meeting our thresholds, even before. But then also looking at what all the alternatives that are available. Is there a reasonable alternative, either if it's a commuter express market type of route where we know most of those customers tend to be more affluent, have vehicles available. The idea of one of the things that you'll see in this plan is a concept called the Key Express Network, which is a consolidation of express services into each of the main highway corridors into downtown. We'll have a main park and ride, and we'll have a primary express route that has service at least every 15 minutes during the rush hours, as well as an all-day component. But the idea is that in some cases, folks may be asked to, express commuters may be asked to come a little further to that park and ride, then we make it worth their while. So we certainly look at what the other alternatives are that's available. Is there other, as we're growing our BRT network, does that in some cases replace some of those services? Is that an alternative? And then also really looking at who is riding those services, looking at, we have information on demographics at a route level. And so really looking at who it is that's being impacted as well. The other question about where do you decide where to implement new service it's a little bit different. That is, of course, also looking at certainly demographic information and destinations and such, and feedback that we've received about people call us every day through our customer relations department and let us know places that they're wanting to go to and where can I get to, and so looking at some of that. But looking at the types of destinations that we know are important to transit riders, whether it is medical, education, access, grocery stores, pharmacies, that kind of, obviously jobs, and jobs are a really good proxy, not only for people who work at those locations, but also in terms of destinations people are looking to travel to, particularly in retail and service industry. So looking really at all of that information and looking at where we think the market, the land use and the development patterns have come along in a way that can support fixed route service.
Can I just make two comments and then I'll, sorry. This is, first of all, we don't have a lot of people, so I get a chance to have a lot more conversation, which is really great. When I'm talking to folks and everything, the biggest problem they're having is owning a car because it's so expensive these days. And so looking at who needs this ridership is really key. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that. So kudos for that, and thank you. The microtransit is the missing link, and now to hear that it's sustainable is fabulous. The other last thing I'd just like to say is, you're looking at the green line and all these connections and how these bus routes are going to work and not work, or look at this. I think this is great opportunity for us to get some learnings for the blue line extension as we look at that as our next thing. So I'm really excited about figuring out what's working, what's not, so that we don't make errors in the same, or we make it better when we go to the blue line. So thank you.
Chair and members of the committee, that's a great idea, and we intend to do that. And certainly we've learned from our history as well. When we opened the blue line, we've opened the green line, and looking at connecting buses and really what panned out and what didn't. So definitely carrying that forward.
Thank you. And, a couple of questions and a couple of comments. One, I'm very pleased to hear that Minnetonka is going to be included as one of these zones, and for a lot of obvious reasons. But, transit in Minnetonka is hard. I mean, we've worked with Metro Transit, and You know, we've had, back in the good old days when everyone worked downtown, we had great connections through our park and ride to downtown, and that was, you know, just an overwhelming success. But transit through and around Minnetonka, I would say, has been pretty much an abysmal failure. And it's not through lack of trying. I mean, we've had routes that have been on and have been off, but, you know, it really troubled me as somebody who likes to think I'm fiscally responsible to see that we had these routes and the ridership for, you know, full-sized Metro Transit buses. Well, sometimes you'd have 1 and 2 people. Sometimes we have 0 people on those buses. And to me, it just seemed like, you know, such a difficult challenge. And as I'm excited about this microtransit approach because I think it has hope, but I also want to be realistic because this is still not a cheap system. So one of the questions I have is this the program you've described, is it to take people to the light rail stations, or is it to provide transit around the communities in the areas that you've highlighted on the map? Or is it both?
Cyndi.
Chair and committee members, I would say it is both. Certainly looking to bring people into the transit network, whether it is at a Green Line station or bringing them, you know, just connecting to any bus route. It doesn't have to be a station. But also looking to, you know, to take folks from point A to point B, even if a transit station isn't involved in that, in areas where we don't have fixed route service operating today. We don't want to duplicate our fixed route network, and that is in places where the land use patterns and the density levels are strong enough to support fixed route. That is definitely the way to go. It is a much lower subsidy service. It is a much more productive service than micro will ever be. But, and Minnetonka is a great example because as you move from east to west, you have a lot of different areas. You know, you have a pretty good amount of density in certain areas, but then you have some areas that are much more lower, much more spread out. Yes, there you go. And so, you know, micro is really, I think, it works best in those less dense areas. It's worked very well in North Minneapolis as well, but that's, so it's intended to do both.
Right. And then just one other question, because I do think that communication is really important. And I'm wondering if there are ways that cities, through our communication efforts and through our council meetings and things, I mean, at our next council meeting, I intend to talk about what you talked about today, and I want to build awareness. Are there things that we can do to assist you with the communication to get the word out?
Cyndi.
Chair and committee members, that's an excellent question, and that is exactly the request that we put in the letters that are going out to all of the communities to let us know if there are things that they can do to help us, whether it is a link from a city website or a county website to our website. If cities do, some cities are doing newsletters, so anything you can mention in that. If you have any sort of community event boards, that kind of stuff, anything we can do to get the word out certainly is helpful. And so I would say, I think in the case of Minnetonka, we're sending our letter to Kristen Gray.
Yep.
So, and Julie Wishniak, and so
Right.
certainly I think communicate through them.
I'll chat with them.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we've also, you know, we're more than happy to come out if we're invited to talk to, you know, city councils or other groups within your community. I will say October is starting to fill up quickly, so.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. And Ms. Harper, can you just tell me, for the microtransit, will these be electric vehicles, or is there a goal to have them be electric?
Cyndi.
Chair and members of the committee, initially they will not be electric vehicles. They will be diesel-powered small buses, just like what you see on Metro Mobility services today. I know that Metropolitan Transit Services, MTS, over at the council is looking at electric vehicles. A little bit different. The electric bus industry is a little bit different when you're looking at 40-footers and 60-footers versus small buses, and so I'm not sure exactly where they are in that path. But I know that certainly has been talked about. I don't know But certainly, I think between now and 2027, we're planning that they would be diesel.
Thank you. If there's no further questions for Cyndi or Ben, thank you so much. More to come. Very interesting and exciting. We have just a short time for the project updates, but we'll get to those. But Jim informs me you do have a quorum now, so we can move back up the agenda and approve the minutes of the June 5th, 2024 meeting, and I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Did you get those? Thank you. Any additions, corrections, discussion? Hearing none, all in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries, and we did our business for today. Good work. Jim and team, project update in record time here.
All right, yes, we'll kind of zoom through these, but I just want to say that we have been making good progress out there. The Kenworth Tunnel, I always talk about that, we're around 85% done with the structure, so that's moving along. We are done with subaquatic inspection. The divers have gone off to other environs, and so we have concrete throughout the rest of the tunnel that still need to be built. So anyway, I've got some photos to show. We talk about the workers on the project, and John will talk about DBE, but that's going well as can be on the project here. So a little celebration. Chair Zelli and I took about 50 folks out from Westlake Station over to downtown Hopkins for a bike tour. We have the bike trail open, South Cedar Lake Trail all the way open. So it's good.
So exciting.
This is a good event.
Super
So exciting.
I had somebody ask me about that this morning, just so you know.
Nice.
I was very crappy about that.
Yeah, the Mayor Fry had actually asked me, I took him on a tour recently, and he asked me, what's gone well on this project? And I had to kind of hesitate. Well, I think I have it. And that event was incredible. It was really good to have some celebration. But more about trails, you're seeing a lot of green now that we have open. Minneapolis is still our challenging area with, we got a lot of stuff going on right now with the Kenworth Tunnel. We've got Loose Line Trail Bridge that I know that wants to get connected here soon. We're working on that, and then there's a connection over by Target Field that we're going to hopefully later this fall get that reopened. But just kind of talk about some photos here out in the Shady Oak area. We have a new intersection with 5th and Cattell and 17th Avenue, which is a new roadway we built, and just west of the station. And this is what it looks like just looking to the north. Got a little bikeway going there and the roadway off to the right. And we have a parking ride just off of the image there. And here's one of the trail segments we have open now at Shady Oak Station. So that is indicated that's going pretty well right now. Moving over to Minneapolis, because essentially we're done with civil construction for the most part west of this location. And so we are doing some improvements, widening the sidewalk up on the bridge on both sides. That's moving along pretty well. We've got a little barrier between the travel lanes and the sidewalk now. This is one of the vertical circulations on the west side for elevator and stair. And similarly on the other side, we have elevator and stair as well. And here's the tunnel. This is the Eats boat section. You can see the Cedar Isles condominium off in the distance there. And like I said, you can essentially walk the whole stretch now. As long as you have the proper gear, you can't just go out there willy-nilly. But we're out of the groundwater, and just more construction with all the goings on. And this was a monumental moment. It may not seem like much, but we were able to take this teledipper and send it on to other projects. We are done.
Awesome.
Below the groundwater table. So
Well done.
thank goodness. That kept me up a few nights. And then more tunnel construction. We're continuing on we're essentially kind of tackling it both ways. We're leading from that boat section going northward, and we're also working from the tunnel section going toward that boat section to get that tunnel. Hopefully we have the lid on the tunnel. We're looking kind of officially first quarter of next year, and hopefully we can actually get it done by the end of this year. Really weather dependent. And here's the east boat section that I think I've shown this before. It's been since painted, and we're hoping to get our rail contractor, subcontractor out there to start putting track down on this segment. So I talked about the segments of the cells of the of the tunnel. In the past, there's 30 of them. We have 20 of them officially done. And here's just an image of the bridges just north of the tunnel. Some people enjoying the channel there. And a little work, this is for pedestrian improvements just north of Basque Creek Valley Station in Minneapolis. And show we're laying track in Minneapolis there is 394 off in the distance. And Basque Creek Valley Station, essentially the stations are fairly complete. We still have some work to do on this station and Bryn Mawr Station and Westlake Station. And I think there's a little bit on 21st, but stations are really coming along well. We have 16 of them on the project. And Railston Avenue, this is where the rail contractor is currently working right now in Minneapolis. And this is just south of us where we sit today. And just some images of that bridge itself, the rail getting placed. Our follow-on contract that's going well as can be is right now. We have we're contractors installing a lot of overhead wire. I think we have it all installed all the way through from Southwest Station up to Hopkins. And just some other features that the systems contractor is building signal house. In this case, this is near that KTEL 5th intersection that I showed previously. And just more images of that same area. And signal gear going up, all in place up on Excelsior Bridge. Wire has already been in place. This is in Hopkins. And as we get into St. Louis Park, equipment being placed there as well. And foundation work in Minneapolis for systems. So I can just report to you that we're on a good track right now. We still maintain a 2027 revenue service target date. I don't see any issues with that at this juncture. And so we're plugging in. I think I'll just go ahead, and David actually, he wasn't able to make it today, so I'll just go through these images really quick here. But just some public involvement that we've been out and about with folks talking about the project. And that'll continue to be a feature that we have as we move forward. And we also have tours posted for public consumption. And we, again, invite the group here. If you're interested in doing a tour, we're more than happy to take you on out. And maybe with that flash drive, maybe I'll pause for a moment if there are any questions.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And really made up some time here. Any questions? Yeah, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. The update's very helpful. So I love that you're doing the public involvement, and the Raspberry Days Festival is great. Super busy though. Have you thought about going to like a farmer's market? Are you guys doing that already?
We were just out of the Minnetonka, right? That James, we were out there.
We go to the Minnetonka Farm Markets once a month, and we also go to the Road.
Oh, that's great. How about Hopkins Farmer's Market?
I'm not sure that I'm leaving it. Not yet.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. It's a smaller, great way to engage with the community as well. Thank you.
Good suggestion, Commissioner. Other questions, comments? Hearing none, thanks, Jim, for your efficiency there. And we'll move to Jon Tao with the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Update.
Thank you. All right, so seeing as we're short on time too, I'll keep it brief. So for the civil contract, we're about 95% build out, and achievement is at 23%. So and with that much left to be billed, there's not a lot of that's gonna be changing from that. So systems contract is also moving along. It's about 70% build out. So overall, we're looking at 22% for the whole project for construction. And, that's good. And then what's not on here is the new contract, the Hopkins Rail Support Facility. So that's something new. And the next time you see us, maybe we'll be able to put that on there with some numbers attached to it as well. So, yeah, that's...
Yeah, thanks, John. So just so I know what I'm looking at, very clear. We're exceeding goal, right, in every category, correct?
We are.
Great, good work. Excellent. Here, I agree.
Took a lot.
Yeah, it didn't always look like.
We had to get to the systems contract to get there. But
Any
I'm glad we did.
Yeah, here. Any questions for John? Questions? Whoa. Seeing none, thanks for participating today. It's great to see you all. You can stay connected via construction updates, social media, project website, And look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. We're adjourned
Thank you.
early.
Congratulations on